when you're working with type 2 vinyl, because it's very thick and consequently very dangerous, you can really get yourself cut here. You want to take special care when you're cutting out the holes for your decorative switchblade covers. And so oftentimes people miscalculate where it is on the wall covering they have to penetrate in order to accommodate the hole here and the one here. And so I think it's a good idea if you simply put the switchblade cover over the wall covering and just put a pencil mark or a hole right in the wall covering where you're going to need to make to accommodate your screw. This way, you're not cutting it down here or beyond where the switchblade cover is going to fasten itself. A couple of times I've seen where wallpaper hangers miscalculate where things such as toilet paper holders go, and then they make holes in the wrong areas and then have to live with the mistake. And that's in very expensive wall covering. Anyway, I don't like cutting out these areas completely. I like to leave them intact so that the switchblade cover can go over it and fully seat itself on top of the wall covering. You see, if you avoid this, you might have a gap when you're looking down. And so this provides a spacer, so to speak, while the wall covering sits right up against the switchblade cover. You see, if you cut that out, you might have something like a visible void, and that's going to look ugly. So that's a quick tip for the day when you're cutting out switchblade cover holes for the screws. If you get yourself a 2-edge 5-in-1, it's a fancy 5-in-1 painters and wallpaper hangers. It has so many uses. You can fasten these screws with the built-in flathead attachment on the edge of this tool. What I like about this is before you start screwing it in, you can just bore out the hole. Before the screw goes in, you just put it in there and just do that to get the wallpaper just to move to the side to allow the screw to get in there and secure this switchblade cover where it's supposed to be. Now, I don't know about you, but I like to have all of the screws pointing in the same direction. Call it fanaticism, but that's what I like to do. Okay, now that we have it nice and square, you see what I'm saying here? If you cut too much of the wall covering up here, because of this pattern, you might see a space here. So I'm one of the wallpaper installers who just likes to bring the wall covering right up to the electrical apparatus and just bore out holes for the top and the bottom screws. Cutting type 2 vinyl. Many wallpaper hangers use stainless steel blades, 18mm blades, box cutters, and I would say, without intentionally offending any of those who do that, they are doing a very significant injustice to the quality of the installation, to their clients, and even to themselves. Let me show you the best knife with which to cut type 2 wall covering, but any wall covering, but especially this hard to cut stuff. It's pretty thick here. I'm going to be doing a double cut. Look at the thickness of this wall covering. Multiply this by 2. Let's do a double cut. Let's talk about the double cut. First of all, I'm going to need a guide. Something that's going to guide my blade. Now, I have 3 tools that I use. I have one with a handle. It slides, there's not enough control on it. This is the best tool, it's dangerous though. There's nothing really protecting my fingers from my other hand coming down and slicing my hand, except my extreme patience and my attentiveness to what I'm doing. I'm going to use this as a guide. It's going to go straight down, and I'm going to press firmly up against the wall covering with my 9mm blade. Let's take you up close and see up close what just happened. So we cut through the top layer and penetrated the bottom layer. So here's our overlap. But now we have an underlay. We have the wall covering underneath that has to come out. Now, if I didn't penetrate this well, I got a bit of a messy situation on my hand. So here's our overlap coming out very nicely. And so now, if I've done well, that's going to meet up perfectly. Let's see. I'll be doing this over here as well. You can see the double cut waiting. I give them a half an hour or more to relax. There's no rush when you're double cutting. Here's our seam. Doesn't look like it, you can't even see the seam now. But it is. Now, I just go over and adjust. Now, let's say your seam did not come out as perfectly as this. You take your smoother and you join the two together like this, crisscrossing in an X pattern. And what you're doing is you're moving this side here and this one here to join in the middle. You don't want to do this. You'll overlap it. What you want to do is force the seam starting here, putting pressure on it, and you're not overdoing it by going directly against the seam. You're going this way, and when it meets the seam, it'll stop. If you do it in a diagonal X pattern, it'll stop, and then all you're doing is you're continuing that pressure up against the seam, going down. And then you're doing the same to this side. You never want to go this way, because what you'll wind up with is a pursed seam. Two seams, one pushing up against the other. Don't do that. There's no need to do that. Now, we'll clean up our seam, get rid of the glue that's come out, and we will do our second double cut. Any questions thus far? Just please put them in the bottom. I know you can't see it, but I'm putting this straight edge on the edge of 3 squares, so I know it's straight. There are 3 squares in the pattern. I'm on the edge of the 3rd square. And press in real hard, then I pull down. When I got down to here, my edger had to be adjusted because it moved. I wanted back on the 3rd square. Okay. I'm finding where I left off. Take note of the way I'm pulling away the underlap. You do not want to stress the underlap going this way toward the seam. Please take note of that. I pulled it away from the seam. Before I tell you, think about why I would do that. Why would I not want to put tension on the material going toward the seam, pulling it this way? Have you figured it out yet? Let's go up close and do it together. If I pull my underlap this way, what am I doing to the wool covering here? I'm pulling it toward the seam, right? What do you think that's going to do to the seam? It's going to force the seam to be on top of each other. If I pull it this way, I'm putting more pressure for it to move toward the seam. And what I'll do, I will have overcompensated for the cut by making the seam come up toward me. And we don't want that. This is what you want on the seam. Okay, now you want to really check your seam? Put your head up against your wall covering and look down. Put your head up against your wall covering and look up. That's how you want to check your seam. You don't want to check your seam stepping back, looking up and down. Once you don't see any humps, looking down and then looking up, the second thing you want to do is go to the side. Do you see anything? After you've done one side, you want to do the other side. Look up. Look down. You see, folks, that's how you do it. That's how you check your seams. You don't want some GC or somebody coming in who never hung wallpaper saying, hey, look at the seam. A professional finds his mistakes before anybody else does and takes care of them before being told to do so. One of the things that you'll find is absolutely necessary is cleaning down your wall covering. Now, this is one of the more overlooked aspects of hanging wall covering. If you're using clay-based glue, it's more imperative an issue that you clean this sufficiently and quickly. Clear, it's just as important, but if you miss some of the glue, you can get it off. If you do not get the glue off of your vinyl, the clay may remove the color. So, this is what I recommend you do. I'm going to dip this in water. Now, you can't do this at every job, but I have an unfinished floor that's cement. They're going to put flooring down. Not tomorrow, no time soon. It'll dry. Not an issue here. But if you had to work on a floor that needed to be protected, you would simply do this by dipping it in a bucket, cleaning it, and then having your other hand underneath it to catch all of the refuse water. I'm just going to go to town here and aggressively dilute the glue that's in all of the crevices. Remember, take a look at the wallpaper. Look at all of the nooks and crannies the glue has to get into and to dry, okay? I had a job and I did a video on it. Take a look at a video, Spencer Colgan stained wallpaper, Spencer Colgan glue on my wallpaper, and you'll see alligator wallpaper that had to be cleaned with a toothbrush. Okay, let's go to it. The glue is sufficiently diluted now. When it's wet, it dilutes and it cleans up like a coffee spill. But once it gets hard, once it gets stiff, you have a nightmare. Let me do the other seam. Now I'm going to take a sea sponge. These are $12. They don't last a long time, but they suck the water off of the wall into the center. The surface remains topically just damp. The moisture is all in the middle, and it leaves no lint. So it sucks the water off, brings it to the center. Gives you more wiping time. By the way, for those of you who have helpers, and the helper, here's a typical helper. Make believe this white thing is a cell phone. When you take a break and you come back, this is what your helper's doing. Remember, this is a cell phone. How you doing, baby? I love you too. Yeah, I can't wait to see you when I get home. Now, in order to avoid that, invest $22 in 2 of these so he can do this. This way, you will never come to the job and see a cell phone in his hand. Why wipe with one hand when you can do 2? Right? And I'm not joking around. All right, you get the picture here. Sea sponges, the way to go. About 11 or 12 bucks. Get them at Sherwin-Williams. Wait till they have a sale. You get them for like 8 or 9 bucks. So that's how you do type 2 vinyl. With type 2 vinyl, I recommend always a thick smoother. This is 8 inches wide, and it's 3/16, almost 3/16 of an inch thick. I do not recommend these thinner smoothers. This is good for vinyl graphics, wallpaper, paper thin wallpaper. It's very good, but on this, I don't recommend it at all. It just slides off of the thing. This, since the surface is thicker, there's more friction, there's more action. At the end of your jobs, what I suggest that you do is go up to your wallpaper in the dark as you can make the room. And then with a light in the darkness, shine up the wall. On an angle, look at your project and identify all of the air pockets. You see, you can't see that head on, can you? But on an angle, you can see it. on a 15-degree angle, I should say. And how about here? See those air pockets? Let's take away the light. And come back to the project. Everything looks fine, right? But now, let's see how it looks when you add the light. You see how the light hits the air pockets and helps you get them out before your wallpaper gets too dry? 1, 2 at the bottom. Middle of your screen. You get the idea. You can see a lot more by turning the lights out and shining your light as close to the wall as possible.